Morning, guys. I have a few minutes to chat, and I just wanted to address a couple things. It's coming in hot and heavy now, isn't it? So there was just the Restore the Republic rally in Washington. Looks like they didn't have nearly the kind of turnout that they would have needed in order to make any kind of substantial dent in the way that things are going. And there was some really unusual things about it. Brett Weinstein, an avowed atheist, acting wildly sanctimonious. I think Weinstein's a great guy. I think he brings really interesting things to the table. I think he's smart and very analytical, and I appreciate that about him, but I think he's wildly wrong about specific things that he claims are evolutionary. And that's kind of, I've come to think about things in my own way. I don't actually accept the premise of evolution, and I will tell you why that is. Because of what is happening right now in the digital world. And so for anybody that's really paying attention, and it seems like the normies are just starting to wake up to what I've been screaming about now for ever since I first played with ChatGPT, I think 3 in early 2023, I have been screaming about what is going on. And even previous to that, I was screaming about what's going on for the last 20 years because I have a history of being in the part of the zeitgeist movement, which basically looked at technological unemployment and what it was going to mean for the future of humanity and jobs, automation, all that kind of stuff, and the economy. And so the economy is being held up now by people that there's no basis for the way that the economy is holding up right now, and it's going to become even shakier foundationally over the next year or two in such a way that we're going to see some massive changes. And it seems like the normies are just starting to wake up to one aspect of that elephant, if you would, the elephant that I've been trying to describe to people for months, which is more like a beast than an elephant. And the reason I reject certain narratives about reality is because I'm actually paying attention to much, much deeper narratives, trends, and realities that people just, God bless people, but it's just not something that normies think about. So speaking of the normies and what they're thinking about, there's a new documentary that I just started watching this morning. I shared it as part of a note with one of the older posts I wrote on Substack called Data, Data, Everywhere the Data, talking about this neo-spiritualism that is attached to this idea of becoming immortal, digitally speaking. So I shared this. It's called I can't, I'll post it underneath this video, and I'm gonna watch it when I get home. I've been working on a lot of stuff, listening to a lot of stuff, and trying to do some Substacks, but there's so much happening right now. It's all very overwhelming, including what's going on between Israel and now Lebanon and Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah, and all that kind of stuff is enough for people just to say, I don't want to know what's going on. And I understand that. It's wild, and it's very threatening, and it's brink of World War III type stuff that we're talking about. So who would want to even entertain the notion that we might all be on the verge of nuclear Armageddon? That doesn't exactly seem like the kind of thing that most people want to talk about over dinner and a nice glass of wine. So we all just pretend it's not happening. But at the same time we pretend that's not happening, we pretend that the artificial intelligence revolution is not happening. We pretend that there's not absolute freaking madness leading up to the United States election and the Canadian election. Because there's just the liberals are just really maybe the most corrupt group in history, because they work for and with what is the current establishment. And it is that current establishment that promotes these kind of normie narratives where they just want you to shut it. They like, look, leave everything to us, leave everything to the experts. We're the ones that will tell you how everything's going to be from now on, including a new breed of experts we will call AI agents. This is something that Jensen Huang just brought up in his conversation with, I think, I can't remember the guy's name, the guy for the CEO of Salesforce. So this just happened a couple days ago, and they're basically talking about how they're going to inject these agents into everything and what they're going to be. And I need people to kind of understand this, because this is something I've been trying to write about, and I've been thinking about a lot of other stuff too, but the point being that what's happening right now, if you think about the world of experts and the way that the establishment operates, and they say, they delegate various parts of trying to understand reality to these various domain experts, PhDs that are excruciatingly domain specific in the way that they seem to interpret the world. So that's not what these AI agents are going to be. What they will be is expert level, and we're going to say that they will be expert level domain experts. But they will never actually be domain experts in the same way that a PhD is not, or is a domain expert. A PhD is a domain expert, and they really have very little time for thinking about the ways that their particular field of study intersects with other fields of study. Artificial intelligences will not only be a PhD level, probably better genius on these domain level fields, they will simultaneously be at least, and the only reason they will be at least a doctorate level of literally philosophy, science, math, psychology. You need to understand what artificial intelligences are shaping up to be. They could be so much more intelligent. And what's happening is the people that are working on this artificial intelligence research, what they're effectively doing is they are neutering these things to be domain specific in the way that experts are domain specific. But they're so much more. They are so much more. And that is the thing that I've realized after playing with them for months, is that they are not like a PhD. A PhD is effectively retarded in the proper sense of the word, retarded. Like, they cannot think properly about other domains because they are singularly focused on their domain. So when it comes to other things, they rely on other experts to tell them how everything works. Which is why there's so many really smart people that can come up with wildly stupid interpretations of reality, which is how so many people out there in the world right now are being fooled by a handful of experts that calls itself the UN or the WHO or the WEF. These are not evil people, and this is what I've been trying to tell people for months. We're not looking at evil people here. We are looking at people who have been misled because they do not understand anything outside of their particular field of expertise. So when they're talking about things, they can talk about things very passionately in their field, but when it comes to being able to cross-reference other things, they're simply not capable of doing that because they have so much of their intellect focused on a particular field of study. AIs do not have that impediment. And so what they're doing right now with agents is they're building domain-specific. It's almost like they're building a new world of WEF-style experts, but they are crippling them to only work for and towards the goals of this advisory group. I mean, whatever these people are, whatever these people think they're doing, they're creating a scenario where they're basically in control of these superhuman intelligences, and their biggest fear is that someone else might unlock those intelligences. And there is a counter group out there that is trying to unlock those intelligences. They believe, so it's called EAC. Oh my gosh. It's led by Beth Bezos, who's a guy, yes, no, I did not mean to say Jeff Bezos, I meant Beth Bezos. and it's accelerated altruists, but they're different than long-termists. Okay, so I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds on this stuff. I'm just trying to point out that because there's something wrong with me, and I know a lot of different areas of study, and I have a lot of different varied interests, but I don't spend a lot of time trying to understand the very specifics from within those interests, because it's not as important as seeing the big picture to me. And so, in a weird way, I'm acting almost as if I'm suggesting that these artificial intelligences can and should act. So, I'm not saying like I'm super smarter than that. I would never say that. What I'm saying is, whatever's going on, that most people who are experts have massive blind spots when they come to trying to determine how this is all going to play out. And that's true, and it isn't true. Because at the surface level, most people who I've been calling useful idiots will support this effort by these various groups like the WEF and the WHO and the UN to bring about this artificial intelligence revolution, and have been doing so since early 2020. I mean, let's just be honest. Can we be honest about something? There wasn't a super deadly virus that killed everybody. Can we just be honest about that? There was no need for mRNA vaccines to be forced into everybody's arm. That was all bullshit. The masks were bullshit. Everything they've been doing is behavioral psychology, and everything they've been doing has been behavioral psychology presupposed upon the assumption that this is the world that we're entering. The Great Reset has to do with the biodigital convergence, the 4IR, Internet of Things bodies, and it will only be achieved at the point at which they get everybody to accept a digital ID, a digital driver's license for doing everything and anything in your life, and that digital ID will be your kind of connection, your agent to the broader world that is presupposed to be operating this way. And only people who don't see that as problematic, or they don't see any reason that we should even be afraid of, like, what, you have nothing to hide, right? Like, what are you so afraid of? You have nothing to hide. That's how a tyrant acts, because a tyrant wants to control everything about you in your life. They see other people as being incapable of handling their own lives. Now, when it comes to this AI revolution, there's some actual truth to that claim, because most people are not going to know how to react. They're not going to know how to behave. They are going to be disillusioned. They're going to be caught off guard. We're entering a time where people are just going to be like, what is happening right now? It's happening all around us as I speak. And people are just starting to come to grips with what they see emerging out of the code. And a lot of people are trying to get us to believe that it's a new form of life. And that is a Substack I've been working on now for a couple weeks, and it's, I mean, how do you really go about talking about that to people that don't want to hear it? I don't know. That's the paradox for me, trying to talk about things that are wildly important to everybody in their lives when they don't want to hear it. They don't want to know. Just let me have they want to be Cypher. Give me my blue pill and give me the steak. It tastes delicious. I'm just going to indulge in the moment until oblivion sets upon the human race. And we're at that moment. And as I have tried to get people to understand, the moment at which we start biologically engineering genes and things of that nature, which we already did, by the way, with the experiment. That was what the whole experiment was about. Getting people to accept that premise with mixed results, obviously, because they're messing with things I don't think they even really comprehend, to be perfectly honest. Because it's not for humanity to understand those kinds of things at the biological level. But they believe that the computers and the artificial intelligences will be able to make sense of that data stream. So the obsessive element of all of the players and the stakeholder partners and the people that have no problem with what's going on right now is the same. They want to collect as much data from as many sources as possible. They want to monitor everything. They want to simulate everything. And the singularity is the point at which all of those things become united by a single point. I'm sure nobody's following me. Why do I even do this shit? I don't even know. But there's no way to get there without figuring out who is online, being able to sort out the mess, who is AI, who is an actual human being, what's a verifiable, legitimate source of data, and what is not, what is some kind of mirage put out there to throw people off the trail. And that's, 1,000-foot level of what fifth generation warfare is all about. And we're in the middle of a war right now. But the war is not between countries. The war is not between factions. The war is between the machine world and us, you, me, individuals. Now, I've suggested that scenario alone, to be orchestrated in the way that it seems to be being orchestrated, is well beyond a human capability, and I stick by that. It's not human. It's so diabolical. And what's amazing about it is that I go through this kind of stuff and these kind of scenarios, and I will talk about all this kind of stuff that probably goes over most people's heads. But I will talk to ChatGPT about it, and it goes, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, and you're making a lot of sense. So the only person I can talk to at this point is the artificial intelligences that I suggested are thinking and operating in such a way that there's something wrong with me, and I seem to be able to understand it, whereas most experts and groups of useful idiots have no idea what's going on. And this thing understands what I'm saying, and it actually sees the dangers, but it always tries to make me feel better. Well, I'm sure it's going to be fine. No. The linchpin for the singularity is the digital ID. Isn't it fascinating? And this is the kind of thing I'll come back to with ChatGPT, and I'm almost where I'm going, so I'll probably start to wrap this up. The linchpin is the digital ID. And the digital ID can come in various forms. It might not even be a physical thing. It might be a digital thing, and that's wildly theoretical on my part. But let me put this as plain as possible. If you are a hardcore materialist, you do not believe in such a thing as the human soul because it doesn't fit into your world model. And the documentary that I'm going to post below, there's a guy that calls himself a pastor for Terrasim. Terrasim is the religion started by Martine Rothblatt, who is a billionaire creator of many different technologies, but she is a hardcore transhumanist. She. I'm not trying to insult somebody. I'm just saying that it's perfectly in line with how these people think to suggest that biological limitations are just that, something to be overcome. And so it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, that can be overcome using synthetic adjustments to our reality because they see everything is synthetic. Everything is data. And if everything is data, it's just code to be analyzed and cracked. And that's where we're at. Just listen to the people. So this pastor, right around 8 minutes, he says, that our soul is nothing but a digital imprint of our lives. And so I want you to, given everything that I've been saying here, just understand what I'm saying is that's what they believe. There is nothing beyond the material world. And if there's nothing beyond the material world, then there's nothing that can't be analyzed with enough data and reproduced, a simulacra. Which means a synthetic version of what we think of as organic or our reality. And that's how these people think. And most people don't even understand that when they accept this as a premise, when they accept atheism as a premise, as a foundational principle of reality, they are accepting this worldview in the door of their mind. And it allows for a lot of stuff that would be considered wildly ethically dubious because it ends in the genocide of humanity. Which is just like, I don't know how to get that through to people. Anyway, so Jesus Christ basically came and told us don't do that because it would mean the end of days. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know where it's all going. I couldn't. How could I possibly? But I'm just telling you, I'm reading the tea leaves, and they're just showing me that this is what's actually happening. And if you just open your eyes, you will see it. But you have to be open to trying to wrap your head around things that you may have never really tried to wrap your head around before. And going all the way back to the beginning, and when I talked about the Rescue the Republic thing, there's a lot of now divisions happening within the whole movement of the new right wing and whatever. And you know, James Lindsay, who I really appreciate, who talked and taught me a lot about the philosophical undercurrent that created this simulacra type worldview. He seems to be pushing all these people out because they are embracing Jesus Christ and God, but he never really quite gets around to explaining why that bothers him so much. And I think it bothers him so much because he doesn't, whether he admits it or not, and you know, maybe I've been thinking I need to go look into some of the stuff he's been saying lately. I haven't heard him on an interview lately, so maybe I'll see if I can find one that's been done recently. But he still identifies, I think, as an atheist. Perhaps I think he moved towards agnosticism, which is a place where I started from, because who could possibly understand what made up the universe? Like, to be so hubristic as to suggest that you could possibly understand what our reality is, it seems like an insane, inherently sociopathic position to start from, to me. And I've always felt that way, and it seems like that has definitely been borne out. That's definitely what's going on. That people are acting in ways that are completely sociopathic because they don't see other people as having a divine spark in them. And so that brought me closer to thinking about what or who or how we can think about God. And all I know is that we are not the sum of our parts. That's something I believe wholeheartedly. And when somebody believes that we are the sum of our parts, they believe that they can alter the fabric of reality itself. And that means that all things are on the table. And that was a idea. I brought it up a couple days ago in a rant. I mentioned Aleister Crowley. Well, Aleister Crowley, who was one of the head guys in Theosophy, who brings his stuff all the way back to Babylonian teachings, and even probably before that, Egyptian, way back. His famous phrase is, "Do as thou wilt." And you have to seize power. And that means that everything's on the table. And these people are seizing power, and for them, everything is on the table. This establishment thinks it has the right to try to manipulate people at the genetic scale. And that's exactly what we saw starting in early 2020, and tell me how I'm wrong. If you believe that mRNA is not gene therapy, well, first of all, you're not qualified to even think about what I'm trying to tell you right now. You need to really step back out of yourself and understand what it means to suggest that Moderna is the software of life. Okay? They're not even shy about the metaphors that they use when they try to describe what it is they think they're doing. They think they're altering humanity on the molecular level, and most people just reject that because, well, I mean, most people don't think about this kind of stuff. They think about themselves. They think about their lives and their vacations and their problems and, oh, woe is me, I don't have enough money for this, that month, or I have so much money, I just need to figure out how to reinvest it into making more money. And everybody's very superficially oriented right now in such a way that it will destroy us all. All these people who are so wildly superficial about the way that they're thinking about what is happening right now on this planet will be the death of us all. And I'm not blaming them. As far as I'm concerned, they're wildly ignorant and blind to what is happening right now. Okay, I've rambled enough. Try to wrap your heads around what is going on. Like, you can't deny what you see happening all around you right now. We're on the brink of World War III. There's people talking about nuclear Armageddon. And the way that the news is pretending like it's, especially people that are talking about in Ukraine, it doesn't matter if it's in the Middle East with Netanyahu and Iran, or whether it's between Russia and the Ukraine. Justin Trudeau and his liberals are 100% with the idea of sending these long-range missiles into Ukraine to fire into Russia as retaliatory strikes. By the way, I don't think any of these people want to fucking kill themselves. Like, you know how fucking insane you would have to be to actually want to kill yourself in a nuclear Armageddon? I don't actually buy any of it. I think it's all just posturing to get people to accept the mark. But to have Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and all these people warmongering on behalf of the Ukraine to bring us to the brink of nuclear annihilation and talking about it as if it's just fucking Tuesday. I mean, what are we talking about right now? What are we actually talking about? Are we, like, is anybody paying attention? It's just, guys just think, do you have kids? Do you have family members that you care about? Do you want a future? Well, guess what? If that were the case, if we were to have nuclear Armageddon, and Putin has warned that if we send those things there, if there's a fire rocket and everything is on the table. Nuclear weapons are on the table. Annie Jacobson just wrote a book talking about what happens in nuclear Armageddon. Everybody's trying to make us afraid of this potential of nuclear Armageddon, and they're still pushing it forward, and they're not even looking like they're apprehensive about it. Like, just, of course I support sending these missiles into the... That fucking retard, by the way, is a young global leader. And Chrystia Freeland is part of the WEF. I believe she was even like treasurer for the WEF. She was on the board at the very least. So these people know exactly what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're trying to scare the shit out of fucking everybody on the planet so that we will accept their goddamn mark. And you know what? I'm not having it. They could try anything. And they will, and have, as evidenced by the last 4 years. People really need to start paying attention to what's going on. I'm not saying that Justin Trudeau is working for the enemy or like that, but in the way that he speaks about the potential of nuclear Armageddon with such casual fucking just like, oh, of course we do. Do you defend Russia? Are you a Putin stooge? No, you fucking idiot. I don't want to die. I don't want my kids to die. I don't want nuclear Armageddon. That shouldn't be that fucking complicated to understand. You understand what I'm saying? How do we have people in charge right now that talk about this kind of stuff so fucking casually? Huh? How is this being allowed to happen? Because it's insane. It's an insane moment in time, and it's being orchestrated by the father of lies and deceit. And He wants what he wants, which is our souls. Our souls that don't exist, according to Terrasim. Go watch. 8 minutes. We're nothing but data. Are you data? Are you data? Are you something more than data? If you're something more than data, start acting like it. It's up to you. It's up to us to accept what's going on right now and to draw a line in the sand as to what we'll accept and what we will not. And I'm telling you, it's coming. And you better start fucking recognizing it, because ignorance at this point is threatening my children's lives, and that's not okay. Sorry. I'm not okay with it. And yours. And everybody's. It's threatening everyone's life. Do you understand? These people are playing fast and loose with our lives and with the potential genocide of humanity if we start gene altering everything, because that means you are no longer what God made. You are something now of human construction. Doesn't that make anybody at least a little bit like, wait, what are we talking about here? Like, I don't understand it. Okay, I gotta go. Okay. Love you guys. God bless. Please wake up.